So I find myself at Rego Park, Queens, near the main line of the Long Island Railroad and about 1,000 meters from Forest Hill Station. It's here where there used to be an old junction called White Pot Junction, where an old branch splits off that once upon a time ran down to the Rockaways. This is the Rockaway Beach Branch. The Rockaway Beach Branch was initially opened in 1880 by the New York, Woodhaven, and Rockaway Railroad. It branched off the Lower Montauk Branch at Glendale Junction and ran through Woodhaven with another connection to the Atlantic Branch. It would then run through Ozone Park until it crossed the Jamaica Bay into the Rockaway Peninsula, where it would end at the Rockaway Beach. However, the company went bankrupt and was sold to the New York and Rockaway Beach Railway in 1887, and a connection to the Far Rockaway Branch at Hamels was built. In 1910, the line was extended north from Glendale Junction to the main line of the Long Island Railroad at Rego Park. Speaking of the Long Island Railroad, it eventually absorbed the New York and Rockaway Beach Railway on the 30th of June, 1922. So now the Rockaway Beach Branch ran from Rego Park down to Rockaway Beach. Unfortunately, in 1950, a fire on the trestle across Jamaica Bay meant that the line had to be split in two. When the situation was resolved, the LIR didn't bother repairing the trestle, and so it only ran services from Rego Park to Ozone Park. However, the city of New York did see an opportunity to run subway trains over Jamaica Bay and into Rockaway Beach, and so they repaired the trestle. In 1956, the subway extension was completed, and subway trains began running across the bay. You may know that today as part of the A train. As for the Rockaway Beach Branch, it went into decline with ridership going as low as only running one train each direction on weekdays. Then, in 1962, the rest of the Rockaway Beach Branch was abandoned. So we're going to walk the length of the abandoned part of the branch from Rego Park to Ozone Park, and the amazing thing about it is that all 3 miles of tracks are still there. I'm starting my journey at White Pot Junction in Rego Park. This is where the Rockaway Beach Branch splits off the main line. But did you know that there actually used to be a station here called Rego Park? It was located west of the junction just before the branch diverges, and its 2 platforms were only next to the 2 outer tracks because they only served the Rockaway Beach Branch. If you're on a westbound train heading through the site of White Pot Junction, you can see the tunnel where the trains would have crossed under the main line and pulled into Rego Park, which would have been in this empty area you see now. And on the eastbound train, you can see where the other abandoned track would have split off to head south to the Rockaways. Oh, and here's the other side of that tunnel I mentioned. So when the Rockaway Beach Branch still existed, it had its own 2 outer tracks on both sides of the main line, which meant that on some bridges, you can see the space where they would have been. Now we are actually going to walk along the branch itself. The first part has you walking along Thornton Place, and there's not much to see here, except at the north end of the street, you can look through the fence and see the tracks all covered in leaves. When you eventually walk down to the southern end of Thornton Place, you come across Fleet Street, and it's here we can get your first look at one of the many railroad bridges that crosses the street along this branch. It's also here where the second station is located, Matawalk. It was a temporary station that was opened back in 1910, and it only had 1 platform. Also, the main line had its own Matawalk station as well, just east of White Pot Junction. Anyways, I'm continuing my walk on Selfridge Street. Then, you get to Yellowstone Boulevard where the second bridge is located. Now the next station would have been Parkside, and its location is on Metropolitan Avenue. There aren't any more remnants of the station, but it would have been on the north side of Metropolitan Avenue, and one of the entrances to the station would have been across from this Petco right here. The tracks then run along a parking lot until it crosses over a freight line. This freight line used to be another branch of the Long Island Railroad called the Lower Montauk Branch, which ended service in 2012, with freight trains taking over. If you remember earlier, I said that the Rockaway Beach Branch initially opened with a track connection to the Lower Montauk Branch. Well, you can actually see the track that diverged off the Montauk Branch right here. But you can also see the point where that track would have met up with the Rockaway Beach Branch. If you head to the footbridge next to Union Turnpike, you can look down onto the 2 bridges. One is a single track that's served to connect both branches, and the other is the Rockaway Beach Branch itself. But the best bit of the journey, in my opinion, is this area behind these apartment buildings at the end of the Trotting Course Lane. You can actually walk onto the tracks themselves as they head under the Jackie Robinson Parkway. The parking lot next to the apartment building is the exact spot where the branch and the connection tracks would have merged. Now, for the next half mile, the branch runs along the perimeter of Forest Park. And if you head to Myrtle Avenue, you can look down onto the tracks where the next station would have been Brooklyn Hills. As you can see, the platforms are gone, and actually the next station on this branch replaced Brooklyn Hills. That station is called Brooklyn Manor, and it's located on Jamaica Avenue under the J and Z train. Now, once the tracks crosses Atlantic Avenue, you get to the next station, Woodhaven Junction. For this station, you can see the platforms themselves and the stairways that lead up to them. But it's here where the Rockaway Beach branch crosses yet another branch, the Atlantic branch. This branch is of course still in use, and it once had a track connection to the Rockaway Beach branch. Now above ground there is really nothing to see of the connection, but below ground there is. As you're on the Atlantic branch heading towards Jamaica, look right to see where a tunnel splits off. That is where the connection track would have gone. After the tunnel splits, you can see old abandoned platforms at Woodhaven Junction where Atlantic branch trains would have stopped at. This allowed people to transfer between the two branches. Now after Woodhaven Junction, the Rockaway Beach branch becomes exposed, no longer under trees anymore. Also, the branch now has 4 tracks from this point on. It's not long until you eventually get to Ozone Park, which is the last station on the abandoned portion of the branch. Just like Woodhaven Junction, the platforms here at Ozone Park are still there. Then, if you continue forward, you come across the A train, where there are 2 tracks that continue east to Lethbridge Boulevard, and 2 tracks that come down to meet with the Rockaway Beach branch. After this point, the A train takes over the rest of the branch to the Rockaway Peninsula. So, if you want to see more remnants of the Rockaway Beach branch, you can check out part 1 of my Secrets of New York City Subway series. As for me, I'm ending my journey right here in Ozone Park. I hope you enjoyed this video, as this is actually my favorite branch line of all the abandoned ones in New York. So if you want me to cover the other ones, consider subscribing to my channel and liking the video. I'll see you next time.